I discovered my husband's niece was actually his secret daughter when I noticed they had the exact same birthmark and his entire family knew the truth for 8 years. I, 34F, discovered something about my husband Jackson, 36M, that has completely shattered my world. We've been married for 8 years, and I thought I knew everything about him. We met at a corporate networking event in 2015 where he worked as a senior manager, and I was a new hire in marketing. He was charming, intelligent, and seemed completely honest. We dated for a year before getting married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by both our families. The weird thing about life is how one small detail can unravel your entire reality. In my case, it was a heart-shaped birthmark. Last month, we had our annual family gathering at Jackson's parents' lake house. All the siblings, their spouses, and kids were there. Jackson comes from a big family. He has 2 sisters and a brother, all married with kids except for his older sister Emily, 38F, who's a single mom to Lucy, 9F. During the gathering, I was helping Lucy put on sunscreen for swimming when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. There on her left wrist was a heart-shaped birthmark identical to Jackson's, same size, same shape, same exact placement. I remembered a conversation Jackson and I had years ago where he mentioned that birthmarks aren't hereditary between siblings, which made me curious about how his niece could have the same mark. Emily lives 3 hours away in our hometown. She's always been very close to Jackson. He visits them frequently, usually once or twice a month for weekend trips, sometimes more if Lucy has special events at school. He's always been an attentive uncle, never missing Lucy's birthdays or important school functions. I used to admire how dedicated he was to his family, especially his niece. Looking back, there were so many signs I missed. Jackson and I never had children of our own, though not for lack of trying on my part. Every time I brought up having kids, Jackson had an excuse. First, it was that we needed to be more financially stable. Then it was waiting for his next promotion. Then it was that the timing wasn't right with his work travel. He always had a reason, and I believed him because I trusted him completely. We even went as far as seeing a fertility specialist last year, with Jackson insisting the issue must be with me since his family was so fertile. His siblings all had multiple kids. After noticing the birthmark, other things started falling into place. Lucy had Jackson's eyes, that unique hazel color with gold flecks that I'd always loved. She had his smile, his mannerisms, even his habit of scrunching up her nose when she laughed. The resemblance was uncanny once I started looking for it. I also realized that despite being close to Emily, I'd never seen any of Lucy's baby pictures. Jackson always said Emily was protective of her privacy due to problems with Lucy's supposed father. The suspicion kept eating at me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. I started thinking back over our marriage, all the weekend trips to visit Emily and Lucy, all the times Jackson insisted on going alone because I was too busy with work or because Emily was going through a rough time and needed sibling support. The multiple calls he'd take in private, stepping outside or into his home office. The way he'd light up whenever Lucy achieved something at school. I ordered a DNA test kit online. Getting Lucy's DNA was surprisingly easy. She left her juice box at our house during the gathering. I know it wasn't ethical, but I needed to know the truth. The 2 weeks waiting for results were the longest of my life. I caught myself hoping I was wrong, that I was just being paranoid. But deep down, I knew. The results came back confirming my worst fears. Jackson was Lucy's biological father. I sat with that information for a day, barely able to function. Then I confronted Jackson with the test results. He broke down immediately, which was unlike him. He's usually so composed and in control. Through his tears, he confessed that Lucy was indeed his daughter from a relationship he had before meeting me. The mother was his college girlfriend Sarah. When Sarah got pregnant, they were both 27. Jackson said he wasn't ready for a child, and Sarah didn't want to get married just because of the pregnancy. They agreed that Emily would pose as Lucy's mother to avoid social stigma in their conservative family. The betrayal cut so deep I can hardly breathe thinking about it. Not just the lie about Lucy, but the fact that he had been rejecting my desperate desire to have children for 8 years while secretly being a father himself. He had been paying child support through Emily's account and visiting his daughter under the guise of being an uncle. Every business trip that coincided with Lucy's birthday or school events now made sense. The secret college fund I found statements for in his office. The mysterious monthly transfers to Emily that he said were helping her with bills. The worst part was realizing that our entire marriage was built on this lie. Jackson knew how badly I wanted children. He held me while I cried when my period came month after month. He comforted me through my sister's baby shower when I was struggling with the fact that we didn't have kids. He went through fertility testing with me, letting me think something was wrong with me, all while having a healthy daughter he was actively involved with. I packed a bag and left immediately after the confrontation. I'm staying with my sister now. Jackson keeps calling and texting, saying he can explain everything, that he was trying to protect everyone involved, that he loves me and we can work through this. His family is also reaching out, telling me I'm overreacting and that I need to understand their position. His mother actually had the nerve to tell me that sometimes love means keeping secrets to protect the people we care about. But how do you understand 8 years of lies? How do you trust someone who could look you in the eye every day while hiding such a massive secret? I don't know what to do next. I've contacted a divorce lawyer, but I'm also thinking about Lucy. She doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this mess. She's just an innocent child who didn't ask for any of this. I would appreciate any advice on how to handle this situation, especially from anyone who has dealt with something similar. One, I appreciate all the support from my last post. Things have gotten significantly worse since then. After moving out, I started digging deeper into the whole situation, and what I uncovered was more devastating than I could have imagined. I initially reached out to Emily, thinking that as a woman and mother, or supposed mother, she might give me some honest answers. She avoided my calls for days but finally agreed to meet at a coffee shop. At first, she stuck to the same story Jackson had told, but after I showed her the DNA test results, she broke down. What she revealed shook me to my core. The entire family had been in on the secret. Not just Jackson's immediate family, but everyone: Jackson's parents, his other siblings, their spouses, even our mutual friends who attended family events. Everyone knew except me. Emily pulled out her phone and started showing me photos I'd never seen before. Years' worth of memories I'd been excluded from: Jackson at Lucy's dance recitals, school plays, and birthday parties. Times when he told me he was away for work or visiting college friends. There were Christmas mornings I knew nothing about, Halloween trick-or-treating sessions, and even a father-daughter dance at Lucy's school. In every photo, Jackson looked so natural, so happy with his daughter. While I was at home, crying over negative pregnancy tests, he was living this whole other life. A few days after meeting Emily, Jackson's mother showed up at my sister's house unannounced. Her explanation for their years of deception made my blood boil. She said they hid the truth because I wouldn't understand their family loyalty. She actually had the audacity to tell me that since I came from a small family, I only have one sister, I couldn't possibly comprehend how important it was to protect their family's reputation. She said they were worried I might try to take Lucy away from them if I knew the truth, or worse, expose their secret to their church community. Then came the most shocking revelation. Sarah, Lucy's biological mother, reached out to me through Facebook. She had seen my conversation with Emily and felt compelled to tell me her side. Apparently, she had moved to another state for work 6 years ago, leaving Lucy in Emily's care because she thought it would give her daughter a more stable life. According to Sarah, Jackson had been far more involved in Lucy's life than anyone had admitted. He wasn't just paying child support through Emily, he had been actively making all major decisions about Lucy's education, healthcare, and extracurricular activities. Sarah sent me screenshots of years of conversations between her and Jackson. There were multiple instances where Jackson promised to tell me the truth. The first was just before our wedding, then again when we started trying for a baby, and most recently when we were seeing fertility specialists. Each time, he made excuses and pushed it off. Sarah said she eventually stopped pushing him about it because Emily was doing a good job as Lucy's supposed mother, and she didn't want to disrupt Lucy's life. The financial deception goes even deeper than I initially thought. While going through our financial records, I discovered that Jackson had set up a college fund for Lucy right after she was born, years before he even met me. He had been putting $500 monthly into it, money that came from our joint account after we got married. All those times he said we needed to save more before having kids of our own, he was actually saving for his secret daughter. When I confronted him about this, he tried to justify it by saying he was planning to use that money for our future children too, yet another lie since he knew we'd never have kids while he was secretly parenting Lucy. The betrayal seems endless. Every day I uncover more lies. Jackson's sister-in-law came clean and admitted that they had separate family gatherings I was never invited to, just so Jackson could spend time with Lucy without maintaining the uncle pretense. His brother confessed that they had a dedicated family group chat specifically for coordinating their lies to me. They would plan events around my work schedule, making sure I was busy when they had their real family gatherings. I'm beyond angry, I'm disgusted. These people watched me struggle with infertility for 8 years. They watched me build relationships with their kids, including Lucy, all while knowing the truth. They sat through holiday dinners and family events, listening to me talk about wanting children, participating in this elaborate lie. They watched me spend thousands on fertility treatments, knowing Jackson was deliberately avoiding pregnancy. Jackson is now telling everyone that he kept the truth from me to protect both me and Lucy. He claims he was afraid I would leave him if I knew he had a child, or that it would hurt me to know he had a child with someone else while we couldn't conceive. His mother is backing him up, saying they all thought they were doing the right thing by protecting their family unity. The irony that keeps me up at night is that I probably would have accepted the situation if he had been honest from the start. I would have loved Lucy as my own, I already did, thinking she was my niece. What I can't accept is 8 years of calculated deception, the systematic way they all worked together to fool me. It wasn't just a lie of omission, it was an active, coordinated campaign of deception that involved dozens of people over nearly a decade. Update: 2 things have taken another dramatic turn. Lucy discovered the truth about her parentage, and the fallout has been devastating for everyone involved. She didn't find out through any of us adults trying to handle the situation carefully. Instead, she overheard a heated argument between Jackson and Emily at their house. According to Emily, Jackson had come over to discuss changing Lucy's school. He wanted to move her to a private school closer to his apartment, saying it would make it easier for him to be involved in her life now that everything was out in the open. Emily refused, saying he was being selfish and only thinking about his convenience. The argument escalated, with both of them throwing around accusations about who had really been parenting Lucy all these years. Lucy, who was supposed to be doing homework in her room, heard everything through the heating vent. Emily called me in tears around 9 p.m. that night. Lucy had locked herself in her room and wouldn't talk to anyone. She was devastated to learn that her entire life had been a lie, that the woman she thought was her mother was actually her aunt, and that the fun uncle who visited her was her real father. What broke my heart was hearing that she was also upset about me. She had grown close to me over the years, thinking I was just her aunt's wife, while I was actually her stepmother who had been kept in the dark just like her. Jackson showed up at my sister's house the next day. He looked terrible, hadn't shaved, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. He finally revealed his full reasoning for the deception, though it only made everything worse. He admitted that his college girlfriend before Sarah had left him when she found out he had gotten Sarah pregnant. Apparently, this traumatized him so much that when he met me, he decided to hide Lucy's existence. He claimed he fell deeply in love with me and was terrified of losing me the same way. When I pointed out that he had 8 years to come clean, he said he kept waiting for the right time, but the lie had grown too big to confess. The most infuriating part was when he tried to justify himself by saying he thought he was protecting Lucy too. He said he worried that if I knew the truth, I might resent Lucy for being the child he had with someone else while refusing to have children with me. I told him he had no right to make that decision for me, and that his lies had now hurt Lucy more than the truth ever could have. Sarah flew back to town from California after hearing about Lucy's discovery. She and Emily had a massive fallout in the hotel lobby where Sarah was staying. Emily accused Sarah of abandoning Lucy and then trying to swoop back in now that the truth was out. Sarah fired back, saying Emily and Jackson had gradually pushed her out of Lucy's life, making her feel guilty every time she tried to be involved. She said they used her career move as an excuse to take over completely, making her feel like a bad mother for pursuing her dreams. The truth, as it usually does, seems to lie somewhere in the middle. Sarah did move away for work, but text messages she showed me revealed that Jackson and his family had indeed made it increasingly difficult for her to maintain a relationship with Lucy. They would schedule events on days Sarah planned to visit, change plans last minute, and guilt-trip her about confusing Lucy with her presence. Lucy started seeing a child psychologist to deal with all these revelations. Her school counselor recommended it after she had an emotional breakdown during class. She's struggling with trust issues, which is completely understandable. Every adult in her life has been lying to her for years. She asked to see me, which Jackson initially tried to prevent, saying it would only confuse her more. Emily, surprisingly, stood up to him for the first time and arranged for me to visit Lucy. My meeting with Lucy was one of the most emotional experiences of my life. She asked me if I hated her, which absolutely broke my heart. I assured her that none of this was her fault and that I still cared about her deeply. She told me she wished I had been her real mom instead of everyone lying to her. She said she used to dream about me being her mom when she was younger, but Emily would get upset if she mentioned it. That conversation made me realize I needed to stay in Lucy's life somehow, regardless of what happened with Jackson. Jackson is now insisting that we all attend family therapy together, me, him, Emily, Sarah, and Lucy. He says we need to learn to co-parent effectively. I told him he lost the right to make family decisions when he spent 8 years lying to everyone. Emily actually backed me up, saying Lucy needs individual therapy first before we throw her into a room with all the adults who betrayed her trust. The whole situation is such a mess, and my heart breaks for Lucy most of all. She's the only truly innocent party in all of this, and she's the one suffering the most. Update 3: The divorce is being finalized next week, and I want to share how everything turned out. Jackson fought the divorce every step of the way, first with promises to change, then with threats about property division, and finally with emotional manipulation using Lucy. I stayed firm in my decision, especially after what happened last month. Jackson took Lucy out of state without telling anyone. Emily called me in a panic one morning saying Lucy hadn't shown up at school and Jackson wasn't answering his phone. We later discovered he had taken her to his parents' vacation home in Maine. According to his text messages that Emily found on Lucy's iPad, he was planning to establish residence there and file for custody. Emily called the police, and they found Jackson and Lucy at the vacation house. Lucy was terrified. She later told Emily that Jackson had been acting strange, talking about starting a new life away from everyone who was trying to keep them apart. This incident changed everything. Emily immediately filed for an emergency custody order, which was granted. Jackson's own parents, who had previously defended all his actions, finally turned against him. His mother called me crying, admitting that they should have stopped enabling his lies years ago. She said Jackson had been showing signs of unstable behavior for weeks, getting paranoid that everyone was trying to keep Lucy from him. The court recognized me as having acted in a parental role and granted me visitation rights, something Jackson fought viciously against. He actually tried to paint me as an unstable person obsessed with his daughter, but Emily's testimony about my relationship with Lucy over the years shut that down quickly. Sarah also flew in to support my petition, telling the judge how I had been a stable, positive influence in Lucy's life while everyone else was lying to her. The custody arrangement now is complex but working. Emily has primary custody. Sarah has regular visitation rights and flies in 1 weekend each month, plus extended time during summer break. I get 2 weekends a month with Lucy, which we usually spend doing art projects. She's getting really good at painting, or just talking. Jackson's contact is now supervised after his attempted custody grab, and he has to complete a psychiatric evaluation before he can petition for unsupervised visits. The divorce settlement was another battle. Jackson tried to claim that he shouldn't have to split our assets since I was getting visitation with Lucy. My lawyer shut that down fast, pointing out that he had been using our joint money for Lucy's college fund without my knowledge or consent. The judge ordered that fund to be split, with Jackson's half remaining for Lucy and my half returning to me. It felt right, given that I hadn't chosen to secretly fund it for 8 years. Lucy is doing much better now that there's stability and honesty in her life. She's still seeing her counselor, but she's processing everything more openly. The counselor says she's showing remarkable resilience. She splits her time between Emily's house and her visits with Sarah and me. She's even started keeping a journal to help process her feelings, which the counselor says is a great sign. I'm moving to a new city next month for a fantastic job opportunity. I've already arranged my schedule to maintain my regular visits with Lucy. I'll work remotely on Fridays so I can drive up for my weekends with her. Emily has been incredibly supportive, even offering to meet me halfway sometimes. This whole experience taught me that sometimes the people closest to us can be living completely different lives behind their lies. I'm not bitter anymore. That energy is better spent building my new life and being there for Lucy. She's the innocent victim in all this, and seeing her healing and growing is what matters most. Jackson still sends occasional messages through his lawyer, asking to reconcile, claiming he's changed. I don't respond anymore. Some betrayals are too deep to come back from, and lying to your spouse for 8 years about having a child definitely qualifies. I'm just grateful the truth came out before I spent more years living in deception.